All right, we're back. Let's get started. We've got to be able to run into this object, make it disappear, make the drawbridge move, make the blocking volume go away, and then also set up a point system and also a win state. So there's a lot of steps ahead of us. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure this is set to movable. And when I do, the collision preset switches from default to block all, but I actually want to just overlap all. And that's one way to generate an event, is to make it overlap, but I also need to turn on generate overlap events. So it's kind of important. So we're going to jump into the level blueprint again. So here we are in the level blueprint. I'm going to create a reference to that object. So we're going to use that so that when we run over that object, we will destroy it. Destroy the actor. And then the other thing is, well, we need an event. So that's done when we overlap the actor. When we begin overlapping the actor, we will destroy it. And then let's set up a point system. All right, so let's create our variable. We'll call that points. And it needs to be an integer. So just type int and hit enter. And then you hit F7. That compiles it and locks in the default value. And then if you hold down the control key to get the variable, and if you hold down the alt key and click and drag, that will set the variable. And we need both, because we are going to drag off here. We'll have the plus key to do integer plus integer, which will add the value of the point system that we want to the points. And then we'll plug that all in. So when we pick up that sphere, we'll destroy it. We'll set the points value to the points value that it's currently equal to plus 100. And we'll set that equal to the current value of points. And then we will print that value. When we get to our UMG section, we will go over adding these point values to an interface. But for now, we'll just print them out. We can say how long we want them to stay on the screen. So we could give them for 5 seconds. The next thing we want to do, we need to remember to turn off autoplay. So I did that already. And we also need to go and turn off our blocking volume. So select the blocking volume, right click, create a reference to it, and type in collision. So collision enabled is the node that you want. And the default of no collision is exactly what we want. So we hit compile, and if you need to, drag your drawbridge just a little bit out here so it's in place, and we can test this. And it's working great. All right, so the next step is let's drag this archway over here, just rotate it into place and scale it just so that it covers this entranceway, so it just looks a lot better. Okay, that's looking good. So then the next step is that we would want to create another one of these interaction spheres up here. So I just hit end to snap it to the top of this object. But since we created this object in the last video on brushes, let's hit Control B, double click. By default, it might not have a collision mesh. So we can turn that on, and yeah, there's nothing showing. And the other way that we created collision meshes was with convex decomposition. And that's not going to serve us well this time. But since it's so rectilinear, what we can do is just create some simple box collision. And I'll just quickly scale this. And the rule of thumb for multiple collision meshes is that you don't want them to overlap on the same object. That's kind of a rule of thumb. So we'll try to get it close. And if we were doing this not in a hurry, we could get a little bit closer. But for now, that's pretty good. We'll save this. The other thing is when I bake the lighting earlier in a test, the lighting didn't look right. And so the issue that you would see is that the UVs for the lighting channel, which is usually 0, they should be in the 0 to 1 space, but they're not. So we could export this mesh and bring it back in. For the sake of this video, the UV1 channel, we can actually just put that in instead. So how do we do that? We can scroll down to general settings, and the light map coordinate index is set to 0. That's the usual default, but we can set that to 1. And then we can also set the light map resolution to something higher, like 128 or 256. That should pretty much do it for us. Now, let's add this sphere and make it 0.5, make it movable, go down and turn on the collisions, so generate overlap events and overlap all. So those are fast steps to set this thing up. And then when we selected it, so I snapped it, now it's snapping correctly right here. This, we made the chair a little bit bigger. And had a text block in here. So you could just type text, drag that into the scene. We'll scroll down, we'll make the world size of that something like 70. We'll type under text, "You win!" exclamation point. And we'll rotate this. And I'm going to leave the lighting of the scene to you. So drop in lights, and if you need to set the default lighting a little bit to your liking, and in the next chapter we're going to talk all about lighting. And then finally we had a particle system in there. So the starter content, particles, and then we had P sparks. And under P sparks, if we want this to start in an off state, there is an auto activate function. So we want this auto activate off. So now let's hook this all up in blueprints. So go back to blueprints, the level blueprint, and go here, create a reference. Since we had the sparks selected, we'll just drag off and type toggle active, and that's in a chain of other elements that we want. We want to start with this. So right click, create a reference to that. Also, we want to add an event for it. It's just like what we did above. And that's what's great for helping you remember, but it's also what's inefficient. And we'll talk about that when we get to object-oriented coding. So we're going to drag off here. We're going to destroy this actor. That'll make it go away. And we wanted to set up the point system for it, so we can actually just copy, Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste this point system that we built. And then finally, we wanted the text to appear and disappear. So by default, we wanted the visibility to be off. So visibility, it starts off, and then when we get to the text, we will toggle the visibility, or just set the visible. You can toggle the visibility. We're toggling the active particle system. All right, that's a little bit messy, but we can comment these. Call this win. And we'll call this hitting the C key drawbridge. Now let's compile, or F7, and let's just test all this. So I'm going to hit play. Before we test all this, let's build. So we're going to build our lighting first. All right, I paused it while the lighting was building, but it looks like it worked nicely. Let's hit play. So our first one we know works. Go across. The lighting's looking pretty good. And yay! All right, wonderful. Well, that'll wrap things up, and our point system even worked. So we're all set. We'll see you in the next video.